Welcome to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Today it's a pleasure to have with us in the studio a very prominent person and national figure in the United States of America, Mr. Tamim Chowdhury. Welcome to the show, brother Tamim.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for having a show like this. I think this is it's a great thing for the Muslim community.
Well, people of your integrity and prominence, these shows like these are designed to let the people know what kind of quality we have in the United States of America and in the Muslim community. I don't think this show is to promote you. This show is to let the community know who is who in America and what kind of prominent people we have.
No, I think it's wonderful that we're reaching out to not just people in America, but also across the world, and then showing us in a context that I think helps us build our own narrative as opposed to other people kind of building our narrative.
And alhamdulillah, we do have viewers all over the world. And I mean all over the world. We get comments and requests, etc., etc., etc. So with your background as the national director for Emerge, I'm sure you have a world and a wealth of experience in this field of marketing and in the political world that Emerge is involved in. But before talking about that, just for the benefit of our viewers, would you like to share a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I'm born and raised Chicago. Born and raised actually in the city of Chicago, and started with the government when I was 20 years old. I actually started as an intern. This was also when I was still going to school, and ended up staying with the government after I graduated. Stayed with the government for 10 years in Chicago, basically working as an urban planner, working on different projects as a contracting officer for the federal government. At that point, I got a promotion to actually become a senior policy analyst, senior policy advisor for my federal agency and headquarters in Washington, D.C., where I spent 4 years there. And then just actually in September of 2014, this opportunity presented itself with Emerge U.S.A. I was looking for a change. The community needs this. I really am passionate about civic engagement and political engagement on behalf of minority communities. So I made the shift, made the move. Right now I'm in Miami. I'm sure the location had nothing to do with the decision, but moved to Miami, and alhamdulillah, I think we're really building it with Emerge USA. We've now expanded to 4 states across the country, with the potential for actually expanding to more.
Subhanallah. And I'm sure with that federal government background and that exposure and experience, you definitely brought a wealth of information. I don't want to use the word information really, but a wealth of experience to Emerge. And that will definitely benefit the entire community and the nation at large in the United States of America and the whole world. But before we merge into Emerge, behind the scenes and off the records, you have had a little movie background. Is it okay to share that? Could we share that?
Yeah. Since you put it out there, I guess I have to talk about it. But yes, actually, so I had a good friend of mine who actually was an economist, and then just decided, okay, wasn't living his passion, wasn't living his dream, wanted to become a film director.
Okay.
So then he started making some independent films, and specifically with the South, kind of incorporating, I guess, the South Asian experience with the American experience, which is very similar to somebody like myself, like of Bangladeshi descent, like my parents being immigrants from Bangladesh, but me being born and raised here.
Good.
He coming with the same background. So we actually did a movie.
Was it comedy based or?
It wasn't comedy based actually. It was drama. It was drama action. It was actually very entertaining. We kind of took a parody of some of these different community groups. That they always tend to argue amongst themselves within especially within minority communities, unfortunately. So we kind of took a parody of that, and then we actually did the film to actually raise funds for a school in Bangladesh.
Oh, okay.
So the school in Bangladesh, I'm forgetting the name right now, but the school in Bangladesh, what they did was, you have a lot of child labor issues in third world countries, and I think in Bangladesh in particular, when you have children, you start putting them to work right away, just because the economic circumstances.
So if someone wants to go online or go on YouTube, could they find this movie?
They can definitely find some information on it, IMDb.
Okay.
But yeah, but I believe the movie's not in production anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, but
Well, they
that's
should get it off the records.
they could, they could reach out to me.
Oh, definitely.
So
I mean, it's nice. Whatever we can learn from and your experience, that should be a lot of fun. Because I think that's a nice way of learning in today's world. Our future leaders can look at Muslim or Muslims in comedy shows and then entertainment shows. And that's not that I want to be biased by using the word Muslims, but in some cases, because of the Islamic atmosphere. Because nowadays, it's sad to see that every second show has obscene languages
yeah.
and some kind of nudity and some kind of vulgar scenes, which, I mean, while I am and I will consider myself very liberal, and I'm sure you're very liberal. That's why we're on the show. That's why we're on the show. I'm very liberal. I love media. I love technology. I love all these, scientific things. But yet, when it comes to the Quran, we got to work within the peripheral and the boundary.
Absolutely.
Nakedness, obscenity, certain things. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's not spiritual. It's not religious. It's not human. That's really an insane sort of mechanism or strategy that the not the media but the movie industry use to market people. At the end of the day, it really corrupts. And I want to say this on a challenge. It corrupts when you get out of immorality. And everyone will tell you that. The rabbis will tell you that. The priests will tell you that. The politicians will tell you that who are sober-minded, that they don't like those things. So I didn't want to misrepresent the word Muslim movie actors in areas of an Islamic context. So our youngsters will learn some comedy, some entertainment, some fun. Because when they go to the masjid and they get into the Islamic centers, it's so hardcore. It's like no smiling. Sometimes I perform a wedding, everybody's so serious, sad. I'm like, is this a janazah? Is it a funeral? So I think our Muslim community, just like politics, and as you are doing it with Emerge, they need to get out there, make this way of life a happy-go, realistic, practical way. What do you think about that?
I can't agree with you more, and I think
so. Therefore, we need you to get back in the movie acting.
You know what? It depends on the script. Depends on the script.
So we may have some script. We'll get you involved in Alhikmat TV. So we want to let the viewers know. Look out for it. We will come up with something, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So to get on a more serious note, Brother Tamim, so tell us a little bit about who came up with the idea of Emerge. How did this emerge, if I want to put it like that? Who came up with the idea? How did the idea come about? And a little bit of the background of Emerge.
Okay, well, Emerge U.S.A. Started actually in 2009 in its current form. Prior to that, it existed as the Center for Voter Advocacy, which was a different type of organization. Emerge U.S.A. emerged in 2009 primarily as a response of the lack of presence on behalf of in the civic and the political engagement arena for American Muslims. So ultimately, Emerge USA is an organization that is focused on voter advocacy. We're focused on education. We're focused on the civic and political engagement for American Muslims. And one thing that I think doesn't necessarily kind of fall on too many people, or I should say that people aren't necessarily aware of, is that engagement is something that needs to happen on a regular basis on your local, on your state, and your federal level. When we watch TV, we see we'll see President Obama, we'll see members of Congress, and that while it's important, it's also very very far away from what's actually happening in your day-to-day life, in the governance that's actually happening in your community.
Yes.
What actually happens on your state level, what happens on the local level, will actually impact your life far greater. And there's a way that American Muslims now really getting into their second and third generations here. For me, my parents were Bangladeshi immigrants. They came to Chicago in the 70s. I was born and raised here. America's the only country I know. So being an American, I really want to make sure that we're having proper representation. That me as an American Muslim is properly represented.
So which party does Emerge support?
We are nonpartisan.
I got to be very political in this question here. That's why we are talking on this show.
You asked the hard-hitting questions. I think we are nonpartisan. We're nonpartisan, and I think it's also very important to recognize that I think a lot of people like to put all minorities into that Democratic category, or they vote Democratic or they vote Republican. I think, for the American Muslim community, when George W. Bush actually ran for office in his first term, Muslims in droves voted for him.
Definitely.
Right, and then and I think what happened subsequently, in his reelection, Muslims just didn't vote. And then you had Obama that came by, and then then obviously he had some Islamic roots, and at the same time I think we wanted to, I think people were ultimately looking for that change, and then that actually we all kind of got swept up in the minority.
But very important, I just like to be very non-biased too.
Yes.
Muslims voted for President George Bush.
Yes.
He won the election.
Yes.
They did not vote for him when he went back for election, but he still won the election.
He still won the election.
That's very interesting for Muslims to know.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of Muslims go away with the impression that they could make the final decision. Well, yes, they could. Like any political arena, with the numbers count, but it is important for them to understand the statistics that they did not vote for his re-election, the majority of them, but he still won. And yes, they supported the Democratic Party for President Obama, and he won. So it's a very interesting jigsaw puzzle here, which I like that about Emerge, and that's what I really love. I do not believe that Muslims should stick to one party.
Absolutely.
It cannot work. This is not some other country and some other place. These are two very powerful parties in America, the Republicans and the Democratic Party, and we need to be balanced. And if we don't be balanced, we are really fooling ourselves.
Yeah, no,
Doesn't that make sense?
That makes great sense. And I think one thing that Emerge USA really focuses on is like making sure that we engage on both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
And I think what you're seeing with lack of engagement, right? Now you're starting to see the American Muslim population start getting engaged and getting really plugged into politics and getting really plugged into what's happening in their communities. And a part of it is to really kind of combat Islamophobia. Like Islamophobia. Just if I can kind of share, I guess, a personal story. Spending 14 years with the federal government, I was frankly one of the only Muslim. Actually, I was the only Muslim on my team in headquarters in Washington D.C. So it was the month of Ramadan. Month of Ramadan came up, and I sent an email to my entire team. It's a team of 36 at the time, and then I sent an email to the team saying, "Hey, I'm just letting everybody know I'm getting into the office right around 5 or 6 a.m. every day because I'm going to get up for sahur, and then I'm just going to go directly to work. And then so if I'm leaving at 2:30, it's because I got in at 5 or 6. I'm not slacking. And I also said if I'm a little grumpy, if I'm a little short or if I'm a little fatigued, I apologize in advance. Please have patience with me. I'm fasting from sunrise to sunset. And one thing about Washington D.C., especially with the team that I was there in headquarters, it was an amazing team. They were all highly educated. Tons of people with masters, maybe even PhDs. But they reached out to me and they were just like, "Oh wow, really? You're fasting during the month of this is the month of Ramadan? Oh, so you're a Muslim? Oh." And people started asking questions, and then there was a lot of misinformation, and I was able to kind of be able to explain what the truth was. And and I think this is like I look at my example.
They understood you.
They absolutely understood.
And they worked with you.
Absolutely. And there's a hunger and a thirst for knowledge. Yeah. And the thing is, the only way that they're going to get the right information and get that thirst for knowledge quenched is fundamentally through us and being in the community and engaging with
the Muslims like yourselves and people got to get out there, get involved, let people know who we are, so they don't just think we are just Muslims are just a cultural group. You know what I mean? That's interesting. And when people like yourself get out there and get involved, they know that Muslims are part of the society and can contribute, professionally to the society and the community. And I mean, back to the political party aspect of things, if you look at the Jewish community and the Christian community, it doesn't matter which party gets in power. They are involved. And I want to be realistic because, I've been the former president of the Interfaith Council here in South Florida. So, I've been involved with Jews and Christians to a very deep level. My background from Trinidad and Tobago, multicultural, multi-faith, So, you look at the political operation, whichever party wins, you got Jews and Christians, part of those parties, who have backed the parties, who are politicians in the party. That's the balance we need. And that's very good that Emerge is doing. I really support that. And I have been preaching that for many years now, that Muslims need to be part. And when I see people sending out emails that you will be biased to one party, I've never liked it. And I don't care which organization in America is biased to one party, it will not work. It may work 1 year, that's why I pinpoint the thing. Muslims supported block vote President Bush. First time he went up, he won. They did not support him the second time, but he still won. Yes, they supported Obama, President Obama, he won. So it's important that we understand that. Yeah. Yes, we will make a difference, but if we don't get involved, it doesn't mean that the difference cannot be made also.
Absolutely.
That's important, because we get into our own little closed-minded world, like a bird in a little nest, and think, oh, I don't like this, so it will not happen. It's not that anymore. We're in a very, very, very strange world with internet and the media. You know, everything is happening around us, and we may just be like an ostrich with our heads down on the earth, and we really don't understand what's going on. So your organization is really playing a fantastic role and can play a major role in educating Muslims into the political arena.
And thank you. And I think one of the things that we're really gearing up for in 2016, historically in presidential elections, you tend to get higher voter turnout. But one of the things, and you mentioned specifically about, like, you know, being able to engage with both parties, it's really to make sure that we're engaging on the issues.
Yes.
When we're talking about an issue, right? If we're talking about Islamophobia, if we're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, if we're talking about income inequality, these are things that both those parties, all politicians have to deal with, have to reckon with, have to sit on a side.
Of course.
And I think for us, like, I think, you know, in our community, South Florida is going to be a little bit different with that than it may be in D.C., than it may be in Chicago, than it may be in California. And I think making sure that we're really empowering the people to make the choice, I think will really kind of, pay huge dividends in how we're perceived and how we're ultimately kind of respected within political circles.
Of course, and whichever party or whichever politician serves best towards the interests of the people in a certain area or state, I think that's how we need to go. And that's how politics need to go. Because when the presidents get in power, that's what they tell them. Forget about the party thing. Let's work towards the issues.
Absolutely.
And I don't need to say that after the politician gets in power. We should be promoting that before.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. Anyhow, we got a lot of things to talk a little more of. What is your strategy now in 2016? And what are some of the plans that Emerge got? And what you guys plan to do in the next coming months? Because this is really the year of politics.
It is.
But we got to go on a short break. And when we get back, we'll continue on that. So friends, you have been viewing a conversation here between myself and Brother Tamim Chowdhury, a very prominent person, National Executive Director of Emerge here in the United States of America. And this is the year of politics in America, 2016. And I say the year even though we're in 2015, because this is a year for the next many months, 12, 14 months or so, when it's all about politics on the media everywhere. So it's a pleasure to have Brother Tamim Chowdhury from Emerge U.S.A. with us. When we come back, we'll be getting into some more action talk as to what are their plans for the next coming months, inshallah.
Alhikmat Services, serving the Muslim community and non-Muslim community. Dawah and interfaith activities, distribution of Quran and Islamic publications, sponsoring students to study Islam, Alhikmat Da'i, Dawah and Interfaith Institute. Also, Friday sermons by Shaikh Shafayat are live on alhikmattv.com from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Download our free Alhikmat TV app on your mobile devices. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to donate to Alhikmat Dawah Services online with a credit card or PayPal at alhikmat.com. For more details, contact Alhikmat office at 1-800-804-0267 or our local number 954-986-0158 and visit us at www.alhikmat.com. Jazakallah khair.
Welcome back to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Again, it's a pleasure to have with us in the studio Brother Tamim Chowdhury, the National Director in the United States of America for Emerge, a very unique organization that has emerged in the United States of America. So welcome back, brother Tamim Chowdhury.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And I love that flow. It has emerged into America. And that's very good. It's a good flow. So to get into some more practical aspect of your activities, how do you, your organization emerge, plan to get involved or get people involved in the coming elections?
Well, one of the things that Emerge USA does, and I guess kind of serves a role for the American Muslim community, is to really kind of create partnerships and really kind of build the relationships necessary with some of the different, even nonpartisan, but even certain partisan groups when it comes to the issues that are really impacting America, impacting our communities. So then that way we're able to provide that American Muslim voice for those particular issues. And then this is done on the state level. Emerge USA is really a grassroots type of organization. So we tend to start with the local. We obviously impact on the state, and then collectively now with 5 states now with Emerge USA chapters, we're able to kind of collectively look at information, look at data, look at the issues that are impacting all of us in all the states, and to be able to kind of be able to put that into one unit, and then impact, see what we can do on the federal level. So. Some of the things that we do, on a day-to-day basis, we tend to, we'll host viewing parties for a lot of people that aren't necessarily familiar with, like, let's just say, like a GOP debate, which is actually something we just did 2 days ago. If there's a DNC debate, if there's presidential debates, we'll host those particular watch parties, and then that way we're bringing people with different views all in one room.
Excellent.
And that's not just American Muslims. That's going to be all of our different partners and all the different people that we work with.
Okay.
To kind of bring a little bit more togetherness. Voter registration.
But how do you mobilize or motivate Muslims who are on a one-track party?
I think that's more,
I mean, everyone got their individual. That's what election and politics is all about. Everyone got their individual rights of voting for whomsoever they wish when the day comes. But from your level, how do you guys get that?
Well, we always stay nonpartisan. So
Yes.
even if people want to go ahead and push us down, a particular track, we don't. But we do provide information on both sides.
Both sides. So you
both
bring
sides of the issues.
politicians of both sides to the communities.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's your major way of introducing these politicians of the different parties to the communities.
Absolutely, and I think it's a reciprocal relationship, right? It goes 2 ways. The Muslim community will then, maybe through the mosque, or maybe through through an event, will go ahead and meet that elected official. That elected official will now all of a sudden, actually meet these Muslims and maybe believe that some of these negative things they see on TV, some of these stereotypes are not real.
Excellent.
And it's a great way for us to kind of develop empathy for each other.
Yes. No, that is superb. And how do you, the mosques or the Muslims basically in the mosque are very traditional, generally speaking, I mean, not everybody, but generally. How do you intend to create an impact on them, those Muslims who do not come out?
I think,
and are scared to come out.
And I'm glad you brought this up, because
and those Muslims that are told by other sheikhs that this is haram and that is haram and do not come out. So you got a lot of things to do. How do you guys intend to do that?
There's a lot there, and I think one of the biggest things that we've, that I've actually been encouraged by is when we go reach out to the different mosques, reach out to the different masajid, and then we basically speak to them and say, listen, for your Friday Jummah khutbah, to go ahead and promote civic engagement. Talk about the fiqh of civic engagement. Promote, and then even with the Emerge USA, we'll be there right there with a booth. We'll be right there with a table to get people registered to vote, and really kind of educate people that voting is not necessarily just your duty as an American. It's also your duty as a Muslim living in this country.
Yes.
Just being a contributor to your country, and then making sure that your voice is being heard. Because if we don't get out there and vote, nobody will know the American Muslim voice, and then that's when other people write our narrative, and that's when Islamophobia becomes a problem.
And plus, Islamically, the Prophet, peace be upon him, tells us that we need to correct things. And it just happens in the democratic political world that politicians are the people who are the policy makers. That's the system. And we don't have the authority. Nobody has the authority to correct things with their hands, except law enforcement. Different people have their rights in different areas. But we have been recommended by the Prophet, peace be upon him, to speak out against things that are wrong. And here you have politicians who speak out on your behalf. So we motivate them. We speak out on what is wrong. And they are the policymakers that will implement what is right. And people got to understand this. So that's where the involvement is important. And if we don't get involved in the things that are wrong in society, then the Prophet, peace be upon him, says, in correcting the things that are wrong in society, that's the weakest level of iman, weakest level of faith. So to be active, there's an Urdu saying, with harakat, there is barakat. Means with action, there's blessings. Yeah. So we become a blessing to the community and the people, and your organization in doing these kind of work will definitely, be a means of blessings when people benefit from all these Islamophobia and all these bad things that go on in society. If the right politicians get in place to correct those problems.
Inshallah, and I think you mentioned about justice, really kind of being able to stand up for justice. Like I know Emerge U.S.A. was one of the many groups working on the body camera legislation bill that was actually going through the House and the Senate this past legislative session here in Florida, and we were able to work with multiple groups, and the body cam legislation bill provides multiple opportunities for actually providing transparency of government, and and it's a very contentious issue, but really kind of being able to serve with those different groups and be able to serve minority communities in a way that is not just the American Muslim community.
Yes,
there were tons of groups and tons of organizations there, but then the fact that they knew that the American Muslim community was there to ultimately support certain types of legislation and making sure that justice was served goes a very, very long way.
Definitely. That's very deep. No, that's very important. In my regular Friday sermons, I try to plug in something political every week so people can get alert, what's going on. This politician made that statement. Just think about it. Is it right or wrong? Try to, provoke the minds of our people. How do you guys also intend to activate, if I want to put it, Muslim leadership into Emerge?
I think we have a couple.
Or the leadership in the Muslim community into Emerge, whichever way you want to put it.
No, and you're right. That's a reciprocal process too. That goes two ways as well.
Yes.
And I think us being able to provide educational content. We have civics trainings. In addition to that, we have our Emerging Leaders program where we take the youth in the community, and then we actually put them through a 6-month program where with 3 different retreats and with nationally recognized leaders, and they actually learn civic and political engagement, and also skills that are going to be very, very effective for them in the workplace. So really kind of educating the youth, and then really building and developing that leadership in the youth. And then that way there's activity, or there's people, there's representation for years to come is one part of that. So that's a long-term view.
Yes.
But in the short-term level, I think really engaging with the mosques, and I think really kind of working with the imams and the sheikhs like yourself to really promote civic engagement and to basically impress upon the people that it is their duty. And I think that's, we need to kind of repeatedly, provide that message. And then also, as people start repeatedly hearing it, and especially now with 2016, TV is going to be full of politics all the time.
Everything.
Here, Emerge USA is actually here to kind of educate you on the issues, to actually educate you on what's exactly happening. And then we'll also poll the community. That's one thing that we're also looking forward to doing.
We need to do
2016.
that. That's so very important. You will have a lot of political ads, and people need to understand, and that's what advertisement is all about.
Yeah. No,
marketing is all about, Yeah. We need to bring the communities together. Just as you try to merge the Muslim community into the political arena, there's another area that I see, and maybe your community, your organization might be very instrumental in making that happen. I don't see it happening from the religious side, and I don't see it happening from the secular side of Muslims. What I'm getting at is, just as you are getting Muslims to become active in the political arena, I have noticed, and I'm sure with your background, being born here, family background in the Indo-Pak territory, Bangladesh. Is it right to say
Bangladesh.
Indo-Pak? That could be very, very strong, right?
It's fine with me. Fine
But
with me.
anyhow, or the Indo-continent, or whatever you want to call it. There is something that I've seen, you know, because I grew up as a Caribbean boy, born in the Caribbean, fifth generation, you know, studied in India, went to Pakistan, India, etc. But besides there, even in Arabia, in the Muslim world, I've seen that Muslims who went into, and I don't really like to use the word secular, because secular in the dictionary really means non-religious. I prefer to use academics, science, you see. But Muslims who have excelled in the academic world, in some areas, the religious people think that they are separate from them. And sometimes they think that they are separate from them. And they don't come together to work. And sometimes each party believes we don't need you. You are dunya, we are deen, if I want to put it like this.
Okay.
You know, the very academic world think you are traditional, primitive, not as smart as we are. And the very traditional people think, if you think you're smart, you're going to hell, we're going to paradise. But that's a problem. Isn't that true?
No,
We need to pull that together. Pull them together, put a pole of them, and let them work together, because you're trying to get the whole Muslim community to merge into this political arena, and already within them, they have two separate worlds. And we need both sides to make the difference with the vote.
Absolutely, and I think that's why that's why I chuckle a little bit with this, because it's so counterproductive.
Yes.
And it's also counterproductive to just the basic tenets of Islam, and just in the context of having an ummah, and finding common ground. I think within our community we need to be able to find common ground, because if we're going to talk about the issues like income inequality, right? If we're going to talk about issues like climate change, some of these different things that are out there, right? We're going to have a diverse set of opinions, and we need to be able to actually all come together. I think polling is a nice way to do it,
Very
because it's everybody's independently being able to provide their opinion, provide their answer the questions, and that's going to be done anonymously. But then the other part of it is to actually have that dialogue. And if it's not in the masajid, that's fine. It can be done online now with technology.
It can be done anywhere.
And Emerge U.S.A. is going to be there to ultimately make sure that those discussions happen, that we also get the proper representation from our community, so that way we can properly represent them within some of these political circles.
Yeah, I really believe you guys need to do that, because if a bunch of traditional Muslims in the mosques alone decide to do this, that academic group says, what do they know about the real world? And then if the academics decides to do it alone, these religious is like, that's a whole haram world. We're not getting involved in that. And that's a bad misconception that has been going on for many years amongst the Muslims. And I'm saying this on this show here so that our viewers throughout the world needs to understand this. We don't need to wait for a problem in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and America and Bangladesh, and then for people to say, oh, well, what's right and what's wrong. We should not have this separation. This separation is worse than having the separation of the fight between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. How these politicians fight. Here, Muslims of one party fight because you're in the academic world and you're in the spiritual world. But I'm saying you emerge, that can make it happen. Bring this polling together, let them see reality, issues, and forget about this misconception.
And that's definitely what we're trying to do. I think, especially when you're talking about, focusing on the issues, then all of a sudden, I don't care what your economic background is. I don't care what your level of education is, but this issue, be it climate change, be it income inequality, be it whatever it may be.
Social problems and all these things.
Everything, poverty,
crime.
All these, all of it's there. And I think being able to express your opinion and being able to bring it to that issue now takes away all those things that divide.
Of course.
And then now we can talk about, okay, well, how do we create a more inclusive society? How do we create a more loving society? What's a society I want my kids to be raised in? What's a society that I want to live in, in the future? And I think those are the questions that actually really not just impact us, impacts all Americans.
Everybody.
And I think the beauty of it is, and the more people I interact with, our opinions and our what we want isn't really any different than what everybody else wants. So let's actually come to the table and actually support the issues and actually create the better world, inshallah.
I totally support you, and that's why it's a pleasure to have someone like you on the show. And I know we are getting down on time here right now. The clock is ticking away, but that's a good point you made there. You know, the society is such that if one man thinks that I'm going to seclude myself and let them do what they want, little does he know that tomorrow his children, who happens to be in the society, will mix with the people that he excluded. And then while he's trying to save his family or his children, that's where they get corrupted. So when he helps the society at large, he's really helping himself. We cannot live selfish in the world.
No.
And that's important for people to understand. And I mean, you guys are really a balanced organization. You're neutral. You're really in this middle path, and especially with the two parties, it's hard to be an organization that supports both parties in today's political world. I don't know how much support you will get from other people also. It's a very risky thing, you see what I'm saying? But a very honest politician and a very successful politician, intellectual man, will support what you all do because it's for the betterment of the country and the people. You know, so we are on the countdown. We're just a couple seconds away, so you have the last say in your closing remarks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Well, again, thank you for having me on. And again, this is a fantastic forum, a fantastic opportunity to really educate the American Muslim community, or even just the community at large. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things, I guess the last thing I want to be able to say is that, you know, it's so critically important for us as American Muslims to not seclude, like, you know, what you were just saying, not to seclude ourselves. You know, that we have to be able to go ahead and, number one, integrate into the world around us, but also develop relationships and friendships and also, you know, not just professionally, but also personally in the world around us. And, you know, I think Islamophobia, one of the core issues that we end up facing right now in the United States, you know, a lot of this goes away if people just know who we are and just interact with us on a day-to-day basis. And I think, you know, Emerge U.S.A, the beauty of this type of work is that eventually tolerance, acceptance, more inclusion, and ultimately respecting each other and loving each other is a byproduct of ultimately just getting civically and politically engaged. You know, because ultimately we're all just trying to do good. And inshallah, like, you know, I don't know what good is if I don't talk to you and know what your good is, because my good might be your bad, or I might be negatively impacting you, or vice versa. So I think it's very important that, you know, we just get engaged, we get out there, we have those conversations, and let people know us.
Definitely, yeah. Well, it has been a pleasure to have with us on the studio Alhikmat TV, and on this show, Who is Who in America. Those of you who have been with us from the beginning of the show, you would have definitely agree and would definitely agree with me that Brother Tamim Chowdhury is an ideal personality. We were blessed to have him with us in Alhikmat studio, national director, or the national director of Emerge U.S.A, a man with a wonderful experience, and he's striving in a very interesting path here in the political arena. This organization of Emerge, you can go online and see and read more about Emerge, but they are really working very hard this year, the year of a lot of politics, the year of 2016 elections in the United States of America. They're doing a fantastic job. They have done a fantastic job. So in addition to this show, Who is Who in America, you can check them out online, Emerge U.S.A, so you can know more about it. It was indeed a pleasure to have him on the show, and please continue to look out for Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV online. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.